Sup fam, my name is Stix, and today I want to go over my list of the best free-to-play MMORPGs currently available in 2017. Now, this list will go over free-to-play MMORPGs that are playable right now, not upcoming MMORPGs, not buy-to-play MMORPGs, not pay-to-play MMORPGs. This list also isn't going to really be in any specific order. I cannot stress how important it is for you to understand that just because I list an MMORPG as the final MMORPG in this list, it doesn't mean that it is the #1 free-to-play MMORPG. Now, a quick question for those of you still watching up till this point. What do you believe is the best free-to-play MMORPG to play right now? Let me know in the comments section down below. Blade & Soul is a huge MMORPG with large zones, fast action combat, and great mechanics. The world in Blade & Soul is pretty large, however the zones themselves are instance off, meaning you can't really run around a huge open world. Instead, you have to go through loading screens to reach each area, which, granted, is a problem for some people and immersion breaking for others. This does create some great zones though, with each zone having a general theme, a questing hub, and story focusing on the zone itself, something that many MMORPGs actually lack. Speaking of something many MMORPGs lack, Blade & Soul has an amazing character creator, giving you an immense amount of freedom over the character you create. Even with such an extensive character creator, when running around I still end up seeing the same characters created. Have people honestly given up on creating a character that's unique to them? Regardless, the combat in Blade & Soul is action-oriented with a little targeting added in. I mean, it's not full, true action combat like Terra, but it's also not traditional tab targeting either. Blade & Soul looks and plays like a very high-quality MMORPG. It has a fun PvE and PvP scene, although be warned that there are people that claim certain aspects of PvP is pay to win. I'm not saying it is personally, but before everyone jumps in and trashing it, I just thought it'd be a good idea to include the little warning. Star Trek Online is one of the few popular free-to-play sci-fi MMORPGs available. Star Trek Online originally launched under a pay-to-play model, but years later relaunched under a free-to-play model where it found a huge following of loyal players. Fans of the Star Trek TV series and movies will likely feel right at home in Star Trek Online, as the game does a fantastic job of explaining everything and setting up a true Star Wars feel for the game. Now, you have two ways of playing Star Trek Online. The traditional way, which features you running around on foot, exploring, and fighting everything. And then the other way that lets you play as the ship itself. Which, to clarify, I mean you get to control the actual ship, from the engineering department to science to tactical systems, making for some really fun, engaging gameplay mechanics. Now, combat in Star Trek Online is pretty traditional. Select your targets, cycle through your skills until they die, you know. Graphically, Star Trek Online does a fantastic job of capturing the essence of the Star Trek series and movies, being a fan of multiple of the series myself. What makes the game truly a great free-to-play title, though, is the fact that it feels like a pay-to-play title, and that's probably because at one point it was. Well, and the fact that the story in Star Trek Online is probably one of its key selling points. Vindictus is the first MMORPG in this list that doesn't really give you the freedom to run around and explore at your leisure, instead opting for instance dungeon crawling, which I might add is thoroughly enjoyable. Now, I've been playing Vindictus for the last month, and the combat in Vindictus is truly fantastic. It is fast, it is fluid, and you can fucking pick out monsters and smash them into each other. I mean, it makes for a freaking good laugh, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. Either way, since you'll likely spend most of the time you're not looking at how amazing you look in combat, it'd have to be good, right? Graphically, Vindictus looks great. Each zone you go into has its own theme, and they're crafted really well. The character models are some of the best I've ever seen in an MMORPG. Even though the game is, how many years old again? 7? The character models are still able to compete with MMORPGs released now. Another warning though, there have been people claiming that the game can be made significantly easier through the use of cash up items and therefore real money. This is largely in reference to the fact that you can pay to guarantee your gear enchantments don't fail, where not paying kind of leaves you with a significant amount of time wasted if they do fail, so therefore people, I guess, are kind of labeling that aspect of the game pay to win. Now, what kind of list would this be if I didn't include Terra, right? Terra is a key part of every free-to-play MMORPG list. Not only does it have top-tier action combat, but the game is aesthetically beautiful. Terra launched as a pay-to-play MMORPG. Yes, another one. Since then, it, like others, relaunched under a free-to-play model and achieved a lot of success in doing so. It became one of the most popular free-to-play MMORPGs for a long while. However, it has recently been in decline, as many people point out, but at least on the North American servers, the game is still plenty active. Now, Terra, as it was a pay-to-play MMORPG, has some fantastically fast, fluid, engaging, true action combat. Some of the best you'll find in a free-to-play MMORPG outside of maybe Blade & Soul. Unfortunately, similarly to Blade & Soul, Terra doesn't really offer a traditional open world, instead offering very large zones for you to run around questing in and exploring. Which isn't a bad thing, as Terra's world is huge and full of unique looking areas to run around and enjoy playing in. I would also like to point out, however, that Terra is one of the few MMORPGs on the market that is pretty much completely free to play. There are literally no pay-to-win elements in the game other than the elite status membership thing, but the only thing that really offers is more or less the ability to enter dungeons more frequently. This is one of the main reasons that Terra has remained relevant for so long. Alright, before you jump down my throat here, I'd like to point out that the game is in English on the Southeast Asian servers, and although we play with an unofficial English patch on the Japanese servers, the Southeast Asian Phantasy Star Online 2 version is just as worth playing. It's just a little further behind in updates. Now, Phantasy Star Online 2 plays similarly to Vindictus, I guess would be the closest comparison. Featuring an instance world that you take missions in, eradicating monsters, and impressing potential waifu. Now, don't get me wrong, I play Phantasy Star Online 2 actively and it's one of the most fun, entertaining MMORPGs I play. The combat is great, plenty of combos and customization between weapon types, the graphics are really fantastic and very anime inspired, and there's so much voice acting. I also love the fact that the story in the game is so well thought out, if a little upsetting to some people. The game itself reminds me a lot of Star Ocean Till the End of Time, one of my favorite JRPGs. I'm surprised, honestly, that nobody's brought Phantasy Star Online over to the West yet, considering how fun the game actually is and how many people from Western countries actually play on the Asian servers. Okay, so let me preface this by saying that the population in Wildstar is very low these days. NCSoft released an event last month that allowed players to receive an instant level 50 character boost to jump right in at endgame that boosted the general population, but not back to healthy levels still. Nevertheless, even though Wildstar's population is lower than most of the MMORPGs in this list, it's still one of the better free-to-play MMORPGs out there. It was originally created as a pay-to-play MMORPG that ended up taking on a free-to-play model to survive, which seems to be a popular thing to do these days. As it was made with every intention of being pay-to-play, everything about Wildstar stands out above most free-to-play MMORPGs. Some people may not like its graphical style, but regardless, the game itself looks great. It's a sci-fi action MMORPG that handles the sci-fi elements very comically while having huge areas to explore and a very satisfying combat system. Now, combat in Wildstar is actually one of the best things about the game, and that's coming from an MMORPG with tons of good quality voice acting, an entertaining story, and an immersive housing system. Although not as popular as it could be, Wildstar is still a damn good free-to-play MMORPG, population issues aside. Okay, so again, let me preface this by saying that the entirety of Guild Wars 2's base game is completely free-to-play. You only have to buy the expansion, Heart of Thorns, if you want to experience the expansion's content. Now, Guild Wars 2 is yet again another zone instance action MMORPG, but this is one of the better ones. One of the MMORPGs most people are either playing or have at least played. So, if you're just seeing this now and have yet to actually try it out, then you're likely going to at some point. Guild Wars 2 has amazingly crafted zones. This makes up for the fact that they're instance, but each zone has a theme. Each zone has a story. You can spend hours and hours slowly making your way through each zone, learning all about the lore behind the areas you're in. You can run around doing all the objectives of each map to level. You can realistically do so many things in Guild Wars 2, and that is part of the fun. To top it off, the combat is fantastic, filled with fast, engaging gameplay that forces you to combo your skills together and learn how to swap between weapon types to fully utilize your toolkit. This also leaves you open to some large class customization as you're able to choose your skills you want based off of your weapon, alongside setting up traits that help build your own unique character. Now, just a quick little disclaimer at the bottom here. You haven't really tried out Guild Wars 2 until you've tried out Fashion Wars. I'd honestly be surprised if you guys didn't see this one coming. Now, Runescape is a strange title. It currently runs two separate versions of the game, Old School Runescape and Runescape 3. Runescape 3 is updated to be more friendly to new age gamers, whereas Old School Runescape is much more difficult and rather soul destroying. But that is where the fun of the game comes in with. People that enjoy the difficulty of Old School Runescape can still play it, whereas people wanting to play an easier, more up-to-date version of the game can easily choose Runescape 3. This has divided the player base though, but honestly, both versions are highly populated, making RuneScape overall one of the most played MMORPGs to this day. Many people claim that all you do is grind in RuneScape, and grinding may be necessary to level, maybe necessary to get skills, you know? But in the end, the world is huge and full of things to explore and see. Now, the combat is slow for today's standards, and the graphics may not be overly impressive for some of today's gamers. Nevertheless, this game right here is one of the hidden gems of the MMORPG genre. Also, just quickly before we finish this list up, I would like to quickly go over a couple MMORPGs that didn't actually make the list but are still worth mentioning. Now, these are by no means bad MMORPGs, just not as good as the rest. Ion is a fun, beautiful, very PvP-oriented MMORPG that has a very similar feel to World of Warcraft. It didn't really make the list because of how many pay-to-win complaints the PvP receives, though. Arcade is a very fun open-world MMORPG. Fantastic graphics, great character creator, fun PvP, in-depth housing system. I mean, this game has it all, right? Right, but I mean, Arcade is also generally considered to be the most pay-to-win MMORPG ever. Now, Age of Conan almost made this list due to its fun combat, its good graphics, and its story. However, after playing it, I just didn't really feel like it was as good as the rest of the games in this list. Now, that was my list of the best free-to-play MMORPGs you should be playing in 2017. If you disagree with any of the games in this list, let me know why. Also, don't forget to let me know what MMORPG you believe is the best free-to-play MMORPG currently available. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to sub to stay updated with other videos like this one. Thank you for watching, guys. I honestly appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.